As I said before the break, breaking news, of course, 14 flights from high-risk countries grounded at OR Tambo International. What exactly is the situation? Betty Maloka is joining us, spokesperson then there at OR Tambo, indeed joining us on the line. Betty, thank you so much for the time. Won't you just give us a quick update? Where exactly are those 14 flights from, and what exactly is the situation?
Good afternoon. So the International Air Services on COVID-19 restrictions on the movement of air travel regulation 2020 has been published and gazetted. So the purpose of the regulation is to direct the prohibition of embarkation and disembarkation of foreign nationals at the airport from those high-risk countries, which is Italy, South Korea, France, Iran, UK, United States of America, Germany, China, and Spain. So out of these countries, the airport has received 14 aircraft, as you have alluded to earlier, which are being met by Port Health Services for regulated health assessment, and the Department of Home Affairs, which is around immigration services for inspection of passport and visas and so on. We also have the South African Police Services that are a partner in this process to ensure that should there be a need for law to be effected, they are also on the ground with us. So what this travel ban means, it says that disembarkation of foreign nationals from high-risk countries is suspended at the airport until further notice, meaning once the aircraft is airborne, it will be allowed to land. Upon landing, it will then be grounded at the airport until it can return to the country of origin. But in that process, South African citizens and permanent residents are allowed to disembark and will go through a rigorous medical assessment by Port Health Services on COVID-19.
Betty, what happens to the international, people on that same flight then? Because you're saying that South Africans would be allowed to disembark after a rigorous health situation. If we're not allowing any internationals in, does that mean that you're sending the flight back to those respective countries with those people in there?
Yes, so that they will not be allowed to disembark. So meaning once the aircraft goes back, it goes back with those passengers or those foreign nationals in the aircraft.
For yourselves then as a hub internationally, does that mean you close down effectively? It is seemingly a situation where it goes on until at least the end of May by the seams of things. How much does this hurt operations? Does it mean effectively you go into some sort of lockdown in a way?
Not at all. The operation at the airport, it's operations as normal. There is no disruption to operations at all at both international and domestic. So this is only affecting international arrivals from those high-risk countries.
Okay, so basically then what happens with regards to local people who are finding themselves having to go regionally? Does that still remain the case, that you are still able to travel regionally as an issue as well? What about the chartered flights as well then is perhaps the question. Internationally, people looking to find chartered flights into the country, are we halting those too?
That process, the charter flights normally wouldn't land at our airport, but there is other airports, like, for example, you have your fire blades that will handle those, but that is not part of our role as an airport, because we are governed by the National Department of Transport. So from our side, domestic is not affected at all.
Yeah.
So as I've indicated, it will only be international arrivals that is affected.
All right. Are there any more flights inbound at this point in time, Betty?
It's important that... Come again? I can't hear you.
Any inbound flights at this point in time that are still in the air, are you asking them to turn around mid-air at this time?
Once they're airborne and the communication has not been onto their side, then they'll be allowed to land. As I've indicated, they'll then be grounded and be directed to a remote parking where then the processes from the relevant authorities will then take place.
All right. Betty Maloka, thank you so much for the time. Really appreciate it. It is certainly an unprecedented moment there. Spokesperson there at OR Tambo International, helping us understand just really how things have been so difficult as well to deal with the COVID-19 response. A directive issued then, of course, last night, which does mean that flights, particularly from the riskier areas, not allowed into the country, the likes of Iran, Italy, the United States, the UK, the likes of Germany as well, certainly forming part of that list, which does mean that unfortunately any flight coming into South Africa will not be allowed to have people from it disembark unless you are South African. And even if you are South African, there's a likelihood, very, very high likelihood, you will go under health screening and possibly even go under quarantine for at least 14 days. So that's the situation that we're getting from SAA.